Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, 1991, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. The 1991 film Bingbong. The Vincent Crisologo Story is a gripping, intense, and deeply personal look at the life of one of the most controversial figures in Philippine history. It is a film that refuses to shy away from the harsh realities of crime, power, and redemption, offering a portrait of a man who lived on the edge of destruction and found himself caught in a battle between his past and his future. At its heart, the film tells the true story of Vincent Bingbong Crisologo, a man whose life was shaped by the violent underworld of politics, crime, and power in the Philippines. But what makes this film truly stand out is how it doesn't just paint a simple picture of good versus evil. Instead, it dives into the psychology of a man who was both feared and respected, a man who was forced to confront the consequences of his actions in a way that few ever do. From the moment the film begins, there is an unmistakable intensity. The opening sequence drops us straight into the world of the streets, the backroom deals, the raw and dangerous reality of the life Bingbong led. The cinematography captures the tension, the heat of the city, the unpredictability of power. Even in the quiet moments, there is always an underlying sense that something is about to happen, that a single wrong move could send everything crashing down. And then there's Bingbong himself. A man of contradictions, a figure who commands both loyalty and fear. The film does not sugarcoat his story, it lays it all bare. His rise, his dominance, his fall. It presents him not just as a character in a crime drama, but as a man trapped in his own choices, a man whose past clings to him even as he tries to outrun it. The story unfolds in a way that keeps the audience on edge. Just when you think you know where Bingbong's life is headed, another twist pulls him deeper into the chaos. Betrayals come from unexpected places, and the film does an incredible job of showing the weight of these betrayals, not just in terms of power struggles, but in how they affect the man himself. One of the most powerful aspects of the film is how it explores the price of power. At one point, Bingbong is on top of the world, untouchable, unstoppable. But power, as the film reminds us, is always temporary. The same people who once stood by his side start to turn, the walls begin to close in, and the question becomes not whether he will fall, but how far. The performances in this film elevate it beyond a typical crime drama. The actor portraying Bingbong delivers a performance that is both commanding and deeply vulnerable, making us feel the weight of his journey. You don't just see his struggles, you feel them. And just when you think you have seen the worst of what Bingbong has gone through, the film delivers its most shocking, most defining moment. A moment that changes everything, that forces Bingbong to face the one thing he has been avoiding all along, himself. This is not just a story about crime. It is a story about redemption, about the battle for one's soul. The final act of the film is one of the most powerful, filled with heart-stopping tension, gut-wrenching emotion, and a resolution that lingers long after the credits roll. If you think you know the story of Vincent Crisologo, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story will make you question everything. It is more than just a crime biopic. It is a story of power, consequence, and the search for redemption in a world that does not forgive easily. And as the film takes its final turn, one thing becomes clear. No one can outrun their past forever. The city hums with the rhythm of power and fear. It is the late 1960s, a time of shifting alliances, deep-seated rivalries, and a world where one wrong move could mean death. At the center of it all is Vincent Bingbong Crisologo, a name that commands respect and fear in equal measure. His story is one of power, crime, and redemption, and it begins in the most explosive way possible. From the moment Bingbong steps onto the screen, there is an aura of inevitability around him. He walks with confidence, but there is something else, a weight, an unspoken burden that follows him wherever he goes. The streets recognize him. Some greet him with admiration, others with barely concealed wariness. He is not just another political figure or a crime boss. He is both, And that is what makes him dangerous. The first scene is a perfect introduction to his world. A political gathering, a rally filled with supporters chanting his name, fists raised in the air. The energy is electric, but beneath the surface, there is tension. There are whispers in the crowd, rumors of betrayal, of forces working against him in the shadows. The film wastes no time in throwing the audience into the heart of Bingbong's rise to power. We see how he built his empire, how he controlled the streets, and how he made alliances that were as fragile as they were necessary. He is charismatic, persuasive, a man who can make you feel like you are his closest friend, even as he calculates how useful you are to him. But even as he consolidates his influence, the cracks begin to show. There is a meeting in a dimly lit backroom, filled with men who speak in hushed tones, who choose their words carefully. They know that one wrong sentence, one poorly phrased thought, could mean the difference between life and death. The conversation is about territory, control, who owes what to whom. Bingbong listens, nods, and then, with the smallest shift in his tone, the entire room changes. This is where we see his true power, not in violence, but in words. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to make threats. His presence alone is enough to remind everyone who holds the real power in the room. But power attracts enemies. There is another figure in the film, a rival, one who refuses to bow to Bingbong's dominance. Their interactions are laced with thinly veiled threats, a game of chess where every move is calculated, every word has meaning. Then comes the moment that sets everything into motion. A fire, sudden and devastating, rips through a neighborhood, an act of destruction so violent that it leaves everyone stunned. The flames consume everything, families are torn apart, and in the ashes, the whispers begin. Was this Bingbong's doing? The police begin their investigation, and for the first time, Bingbong's name is being spoken in hushed, fearful tones, not as a savior, but as a suspect. Suddenly, the alliances that once seemed so strong start to waver. Those who once stood beside him begin to distance themselves, afraid of what will happen next. Bingbong, however, remains unshaken. He moves through the city with the same confidence, the same unbreakable presence. But behind closed doors, he knows that the walls are closing in. As the authorities dig deeper, we see glimpses of his past, the choices that led him here, the people he had to cut down to survive. We see his childhood, his upbringing in a world where power meant everything. We see his first taste of influence, the moment he realized that fear was a more effective tool than kindness. We see the way he justified his actions, how he convinced himself that everything he did was for a greater purpose. But the past never stays buried. A witness emerges, someone who claims to have seen what really happened on the night of the fire. And just like that, the empire Bingbong built begins to tremble. The police close in. The betrayals begin. And for the first time, Bingbong realizes that he may not be untouchable after all. The weight of suspicion hangs heavy in the air. Vincent Crisologo, once untouchable, now finds himself at the center of a storm that threatens to destroy everything he built. The city whispers his name, not in reverence, but in fear and accusation. He walks the streets as he always has, head held high, shoulders squared, his presence still commanding respect, but there is something different now. The glances are colder, the voices quieter, the loyalty of his men no longer as unwavering as before. The investigation into the devastating fire has escalated. The evidence is mounting, the police are closing in, and the once loyal allies who stood beside him now weigh their own survival against their loyalty. One by one, people begin to disappear. Some flee, some go silent, and some, he knows, are waiting for the right moment to turn against him. Bingbong is a man who has always been 2 steps ahead of his enemies, but this time, the enemy is closing in from all sides. He meets with his closest confidants in the back room of a dimly lit establishment, a place that once felt like a fortress but now feels like a trap. The conversation is tense. There is no laughter, no bravado, just quiet, measured words, the kind spoken by men who know their time is running out. One of them, a man who has been with him for years, dares to suggest something unthinkable, leaving, disappearing before the law can close its grip around him. It is the first time someone has said it aloud, the first time the thought is given life. But Bingbong is not the kind of man who runs. The decision is made, he will fight. Yet, even as he prepares to stand his ground, he knows that something is wrong. The streets are too quiet, the air too still. He feels it in his gut, a betrayal is coming. And then, it happens. The police move in. It happens fast. Too fast. There is no warning, no chance to slip away. Doors are kicked down, men are thrown to the ground, weapons are drawn with precision. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to take him. For the first time in his life, Bingbong is powerless. The interrogation room is cold, sterile, a far cry from the world he once ruled. Across from him sits a man with calculating eyes, the lead investigator who has been after him for years. "It's over, Bingbong," he says, his voice calm, steady. Bingbong leans back, a small smirk playing at the corner of his lips. He has heard those words before. And yet, this time, something feels different. This time, there is no escape. The trial begins, and the courtroom becomes a battlefield. The evidence is damning, the witnesses more than willing to speak. One by one, they take the stand. Former allies, rivals, men who once feared him but now see an opportunity to be free of his shadow. The prosecution paints him as a criminal, a man with blood on his hands, a leader who built his power on fear and violence. But Bingbong? He does not flinch. He listens, he watches, he waits. There is one final witness, a person he never expected to betray him. Someone close, someone he trusted. When they speak, the weight of their words lands like a final blow. And then, the verdict. The gavel strikes. Guilty. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Some nod in approval, others shake their heads in disbelief. But Bingbong? He just exhales. Is it relief? Acceptance? Or something else entirely? The prison cell is nothing like the rooms he once commanded. The walls are too close, the silence too loud. Here, he is no longer Bingbong Crisologo, the feared and powerful. He is just another man waiting out his fate. But the story does not end there. Because behind those bars, something changes. The fire that once burned inside him, the hunger for power, the thirst for control, it begins to fade. And in its place, something unexpected begins to grow. Reflection, regret, and perhaps the faintest glimmer of redemption. Bingbong has spent his life fighting, but now, for the first time, he is forced to look inward. And maybe, just maybe, that is the battle he was always meant to fight. The heart of Bingbong. The Vincent Crisologo story is not just in its events, its betrayals, or its violence. It is in its characters, the people who shaped Bingbong's life and the way their choices defined his path. These are not just figures moving through a crime drama. They are forces of fate, pulling him toward destruction or redemption, testing the limits of loyalty, power, and the cost of living in a world where one wrong move means the end. At the center of it all is Vincent Bingbong Crisologo himself, a man both feared and revered, someone whose very name commanded both respect and dread in equal measure. From the moment he is introduced, he is not simply a villain, nor is he a hero. He is something in between, something far more dangerous and far more compelling. Bingbong is the embodiment of raw power, of a man who understands that control is not given but taken. He does not ask for respect, he demands it. And yet, beneath the exterior of a man who appears untouchable, there is something deeper, something almost tragic. The world he was raised in taught him that power is survival, and so he became the very thing he feared, an unstoppable force, a leader whose strength was built on the weaknesses of others. But Bingbong's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. He believes in absolute loyalty. He believes that his people, his allies, will always stand beside him because of everything he has done for them. He has given them power, security, a place in a world that would otherwise leave them behind. And yet, he is blind to one truth: loyalty built on fear is never truly loyalty at all. This is what makes his downfall so painful to watch. The betrayals come from the very people he trusted the most, and each one is a blow not just to his empire, but to his very sense of self. There is a moment, just before the final betrayal, where Bingbong stands alone, looking over the city he once controlled. His expression is unreadable, but the weight in his eyes says everything. For the first time, he is beginning to understand that power is fleeting, that no empire lasts forever. And yet, he does not run. Because Bingbong is not the kind of man who runs. Then, there is the rival, the man who serves as the counterbalance to Bingbong's rule. This character is not just an antagonist. He is the reflection of what Bingbong might have been if he had made different choices. He is just as ruthless, just as intelligent, just as powerful. But where Bingbong rules with dominance, his rival plays the long game. It is a war not of strength, but of patience. And in the end, it is patience that wins. Then, there is the loyal confidant, the right-hand man who has been with Bingbong from the beginning. Their relationship is built on years of trust, on battles fought together, on victories and losses that only they understand. But as the walls start closing in, even he begins to waver. There is a moment, brief, almost imperceptible, where he hesitates. Where he looks at Bingbong not as the leader he has always followed, but as a man who is no longer invincible. And that is when Bingbong knows. The moment his most trusted ally begins to doubt him is the moment he realizes his time is running out. But perhaps the most important character in Bingbong's story is not an enemy or an ally. It is the person who delivers the final betrayal. This is the ultimate blow, the one that cuts deeper than any enemy's attack. Because this betrayal is not just about power or survival, it is personal. The scene where Bingbong faces his betrayer is one of the most powerful moments in the film. He does not lash out. He does not shout. He simply listens. And when it is over, there is no anger, just quiet acceptance. Because deep down, he always knew it would end this way. By the time Bingbong is sitting in that prison cell, he is no longer the same man we met at the beginning. He is no longer the invincible ruler, no longer the untouchable leader. He is simply a man, stripped of everything, forced to face the choices he has made. But that is what makes his journey so unforgettable. Because in the end, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, is not just about crime, not just about power. It is about a man who was both a monster and a victim of his own making, a man who learned too late that no empire, no name, no legend lasts forever. The making of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, was just as intense, unpredictable, and steeped in mystery as the story it told on screen. From bizarre coincidences to eerie moments on set, from real-life connections to unexpected last-minute changes, the production of this film had more than its share of strange and unforgettable occurrences. Right from the start, the film's production carried a heavy sense of responsibility. It was telling the story of a real man, a living legend, someone whose name still carried weight in Philippine history and politics. The challenge was not just to make a compelling movie, but to do justice to the truth of Bingbong Crisologo's life. The filmmakers knew they were walking on dangerous ground, not just because of the sensitive nature of the story, but because some people still saw Bingbong as a controversial figure. Before filming even began, something strange happened. The production team visited the real locations where Crisologo's life played out: his family home, the streets he once controlled, the places where his influence was felt the most. It was meant to be a way of capturing authenticity, of making sure that the film felt as real as possible. But in one particular location, a strange event left the crew unsettled. One night, as the team was scouting a spot believed to be tied to one of the most critical events in Bingbong's life, their equipment failed, suddenly and inexplicably. Cameras that had been working perfectly all day shut down at the exact same time. Microphones picked up strange distortions, almost like a whispering sound, though no one was speaking. Lights flickered without reason, and a sudden gust of wind swept through the area, even though the night had been perfectly still. Some of the crew laughed it off as coincidence, but others refused to return to that spot. Then there was the issue of casting. The role of Bingbong Crisologo was one that required intensity, depth, and a commanding presence. The actor chosen for the role was known for his strong performances, and he approached the character with deep respect and full dedication. But something unexpected happened during filming. In some of the most emotional scenes, especially those that dealt with Bingbong's downfall, the actor began to feel physically ill. He would break into a cold sweat, feel a heavy pressure in his chest, and struggle to catch his breath. It wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't stress. It only happened during certain scenes. "I don't know how to explain it," he later admitted in an interview. "It felt like something else was in the room with me. Like I was carrying something heavy, something I didn't understand." The eeriness didn't stop there. During one late-night shoot, a scene was being filmed in a darkened alleyway, recreating a moment where Bingbong faced betrayal. As the cameras rolled, something moved in the shadows. The crew saw it on the monitor, a figure, just at the edge of the frame. But when they checked, there was no one there. Everyone on set felt an unsettling chill, but the director, determined to finish the scene, told them to keep filming. Later, when reviewing the footage, the mysterious shadow appeared again. There was no explanation. Some said it was just a trick of the light, others weren't so sure. Another strange fact? The prison scenes were filmed in an actual, abandoned jail. The filmmakers wanted to capture a sense of claustrophobia, of real isolation, so instead of building a set, they used a real prison that had been shut down for years. The energy in that place was unsettling. The air was thick, the walls still bore the marks of former inmates, and the silence was oppressive. During filming, some crew members refused to enter certain cells, saying they felt watched. And then there was the final scene. Originally, the ending was meant to be different. The script had a definitive conclusion, one that tied everything together in a way that left no room for speculation. But at the last minute, the director changed it. He felt that Bingbong's story wasn't meant to have a clear ending, that even after prison, his life still carried the weight of his past. So instead of wrapping things up neatly, the final scene left the audience with a lingering question. Even after everything, even after the verdict, the betrayals, and the downfall, was Bingbong truly free? Or was he still a prisoner of his own past? And just like that, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, went from being a crime drama to a haunting reflection on power, fate, and redemption. A film born from reality but surrounded by mystery. And long after the cameras stopped rolling, the whispers of its making still remain. The story of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, is not just a crime drama. It is a deep, emotional exploration of power, consequence, and redemption. Every major event in the film carries weight, not just because of its connection to real-life history, but because of what it says about the man at its center and the world he built for himself. Through each twist, betrayal, and defining moment, the film forces the audience to confront uncomfortable truths about power, loyalty, and the cost of a life lived in the pursuit of dominance. From the very beginning, the film establishes a tone of inevitability. There is no illusion that this is a story about a hero, or that it will end in triumph. Instead, it is a slow descent, a tale that, even in its moments of success, carries the weight of impending collapse. The fire, the event that changed everything. One of the most crucial turning points in the film, and in Bingbong's life, is the fire. Up until this point, the audience sees Bingbong as a ruler in control of his world, a man whose power is unshaken despite the many threats around him. He is feared, respected, perhaps even admired by some. But then, the fire happens. It is a moment of complete destruction, an act of violence so devastating that it forces everyone to take sides. In a single night, everything changes. People who once spoke Bingbong's name with reverence now whisper it in fear. His empire, once built on control, now teeters on the edge of collapse. What makes this moment so powerful is how the film presents it. The sequence is shot in dark reds and oranges, the flames consuming everything in their path. The fire is not just literal, it is symbolic of Bingbong's own destruction, a force he can no longer control. The sound design is chaotic yet eerily muted, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for what comes next. And then, the silence afterward. The aftermath is almost worse than the fire itself. The smoldering ruins, the ash in the air, the people staring at what once was. The fire is the moment where Bingbong stops being untouchable. It is the first time the world sees him as vulnerable. And in a life built entirely on power, that vulnerability is deadly. The interrogation scenes. Breaking a legend. Following the fire, Bingbong is no longer just a name spoken in the streets, he is a target. The authorities close in, and for the first time, he is forced to answer to a power greater than his own. The interrogation scenes are some of the most intense in the film. The cinematography shifts. Bingbong, who was once framed as larger than life, dominating every scene he was in, is now shot from lower angles, making him look smaller. The once rich, vibrant colors of his world fade into cold, dull grays. The walls close in. The room feels suffocating. The interrogators do not shout, they do not threaten, they simply wait. Because they know that the longer the silence stretches, the heavier the weight of guilt becomes. This is where we see the real emotional core of the film. Bingbong is not afraid of violence, of war, or even of death. But he is afraid of irrelevance. The longer he sits in that chair, answering questions from men who once feared him, the more he realizes that he is no longer in control. And that is the true punishment. The final betrayal, a moment of pure silence. Throughout the film, loyalty is presented as both a weapon and a weakness. Bingbong believes in loyalty as the ultimate currency, something that can be bought, tested, and proven. But he never truly understands that loyalty, when built on fear, will always crumble. The final betrayal is not a dramatic, explosive event. It is quiet. It happens in a courtroom, in a single moment where someone Bingbong trusted turns against him. The film does not rely on music or excessive dialogue to make the scene powerful. Instead, it does something far more devastating. The moment the betrayal happens, there is no sound at all. Bingbong does not react, not immediately. He simply stares, his expression unreadable. The camera focuses on his eyes, the way he takes in the moment, the realization sinking in. And then, the sound returns, soft at first, distant, as if he is no longer fully present in his own body. This is the moment where he truly falls. Because for the first time, Bingbong is not fighting an enemy. He is watching his own empire collapse from within. The prison scene, what freedom really means. The final act of the film does something unexpected. It does not show a man raging against his fate. It does not show a climactic escape or a violent last stand. It shows Bingbong sitting alone in a prison cell, staring at the walls. There are no grand speeches. No dramatic outbursts. Just silence. The camera lingers on his hands, once so powerful, now resting motionless. The window, small and barred, lets in a beam of light that falls across his face. For the first time in the film, he is truly alone. And in that moment, we see the real tragedy of Bingbong's story. He was never fighting for power. He was fighting against the fear of being nothing. And now, in a place where no one speaks his name with fear or respect, where his influence no longer reaches beyond the cell bars, he must face the one thing he has always avoided, himself. The thematic impact, a story of power and redemption. What makes Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, so impactful is that it refuses to glorify its subject. It does not turn Bingbong into a hero or a villain. It presents him as something much more complex. The film explores themes of power, the consequences of unchecked ambition, and the idea that no matter how strong a person is, they cannot escape their own actions. But it also leaves room for redemption. The final moments of the film do not tell us what happens next. They do not say whether Bingbong finds peace or lives with regret. They simply show him sitting in the quiet, lost in thought. And perhaps that is the most haunting thing of all. Because power, in the end, is temporary. But the weight of our choices? That stays forever. The legacy of the film. Upon release, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story divided audiences. Some saw it as a brutally honest portrayal of crime and consequence, a film that dared to show the human side of a feared figure. Others saw it as too sympathetic, too willing to show the man rather than the monster. But no one walked away from it unaffected. And that is the mark of a truly great film. Because it did not just tell a story. It made us question what power really means, and what happens when it is finally gone. The making of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, was as intense and gripping as the story it set out to tell. From the early stages of production to the final cut, the film was shaped by a mix of dedication, unexpected challenges, eerie coincidences, and moments of pure cinematic magic that no one could have planned. It was not just another crime drama. It was an attempt to capture the real-life journey of a man who was both feared and respected, a man whose story still echoes in Philippine history. From the start, the filmmakers knew that accuracy and authenticity were crucial. This wasn't just a fictionalized version of events. It was based on real people, real events, and real consequences. To make sure that the film was as true to life as possible, the team spent months researching, interviewing people who had known Crisologo, visiting the actual locations where key events took place, and digging through historical records. But even with all that preparation, the filming process itself proved to be full of surprises. The challenge of finding the right actor for Bingbong. Casting the role of Vincent Bingbong Crisologo was perhaps the most crucial decision the filmmakers had to make. They needed someone who could embody his charisma, his intensity, his contradictions. The actor chosen for the role was already known for playing strong, commanding figures, but even he admitted that playing Bingbong was unlike anything he had ever done before. He spent months preparing for the role, studying footage of Crisologo, reading accounts of his life, and even speaking to people who had known him personally. He worked with a dialect coach to make sure that his speech patterns, tone, and delivery matched the real-life man. Physically, he had to transform, losing weight for the prison scenes, learning how to move like a man used to both power and danger. One of the strangest things he revealed after filming? There were times he felt like he wasn't acting at all. There were moments, he said in an interview, where I'd say a line or walk into a scene, and it would hit me, this really happened. Someone really lived this moment. And that was unsettling. Filming in real locations, and the uneasy feeling that came with it. Rather than build artificial sets, the filmmakers chose to shoot in real locations tied to Crisologo's story. This included the streets where he once held power. The sites of political rallies and confrontations. The abandoned prison that doubled as his cell. One of the most haunting experiences came when they filmed in an old government building, a place rumored to have been the site of secret meetings and deals involving some of the most powerful figures of the time. During one late-night shoot, members of the crew began experiencing technical difficulties. Cameras malfunctioned for no reason. Microphones picked up strange distortions, as if voices were whispering in the background. Lights flickered, even though the power supply was stable. Some crew members joked that the past didn't want to be disturbed. Others weren't laughing. It felt heavy, one of the cinematographers admitted. Like the place itself remembered what had happened there. The most physically demanding scene, and how it almost went wrong. One of the most intense sequences in the film was Bingbong's arrest, the moment where he is dragged from his home, surrounded by police, the weight of his past finally crashing down on him. The scene was choreographed to feel as real as possible. The actors playing the police were given real tactical training so their movements would be authentic. The physical struggle was not fully staged. Bingbong's actor insisted on making the takedown feel genuine. The scene required multiple takes, with every detail carefully adjusted to make it as visceral and emotionally raw as possible. But on one take, something unexpected happened. The actor playing Bingbong was thrown to the ground harder than intended. He hit his head against the pavement, momentarily losing focus. For a few seconds, the entire set went silent, unsure if he had actually been injured. When he got up, he stayed in character, continuing the scene as if nothing had happened. The director was so impressed by the intensity of that take that it became the version used in the final cut. Afterward, the actor admitted, "That moment was real. For a second, I wasn't acting. I felt exactly what Bingbong must have felt, trapped, cornered, realizing that his world was over." The scene that no one could recreate. One of the most emotionally charged moments in the film is Bingbong's final moments in prison. The moment where he sits alone, staring at the walls, reflecting on everything he has lost. The scene was supposed to be simple. A single beam of light through the small prison window. No dialogue, just silence and the weight of everything that had happened. The director wanted a specific effect with the lighting, a dramatic moment where the light would shift, making it look like Bingbong was literally fading into the shadows. But no matter how many times they tried, the light wouldn't fall the way they wanted. Then, on one take, the sun moved just right, the shadows deepened, and the effect was perfect. The problem? It was completely unplanned. The crew had spent hours trying to adjust the lights, but in the end, nature itself created the shot. The director later called it one of the most eerie, perfect moments of the entire shoot. The final scene wasn't in the original script. Originally, the film was meant to end in a straightforward, definitive way. The final scene would have shown Bingbong alone in his cell, cut off from everything, the camera slowly pulling away until the screen faded to black. But something about it didn't feel right. At the last minute, the director made a change. Instead of fading to black, the final shot would show Bingbong looking at the window, the light hitting his face, and then a small, almost imperceptible shift in his expression. It wasn't a smile. It wasn't regret, it was something in between. Something that left the audience wondering, was this the look of a man who had finally found peace? Or was it the look of someone who knew his story wasn't over? The film that lived beyond the screen. Even after filming wrapped, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story continued to hold a strange presence. Some of the cast and crew had dreams about scenes they had filmed. Some locations felt different when they returned, as if something had changed. And when the film premiered, some former political figures refused to comment on it at all. The film was never just a movie. It was a reconstruction of a real life, a real legend, a real fall. And maybe, just maybe, some stories never truly end. The world of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, is not just built through its characters or its gripping narrative. It is crafted through its setting, its cinematography, and the careful use of light, shadow, and space to draw the audience deeper into the world of power, crime, and downfall. Every location, every camera movement, every choice in visual storytelling is designed to reflect the life of Vincent Bingbong Crisologo, his rise, his reign, and ultimately, his fall. From the very first frame, the film establishes a sense of place that feels raw, immersive, and eerily alive. The streets of old Manila, the backrooms where deals are made, the dark alleyways where betrayals take place, all of it feels like a living, breathing part of Bingbong's story. There is no escape from the world he has built around himself. The city is more than just a backdrop. It is a character in itself, shaping Bingbong's fate, watching his every move. The streets of power. Manila in the shadows. The streets where Bingbong walks in the early part of the film are not just locations. They are his kingdom. The camera captures the streets of Manila in rich, deep tones, creating a world that is both vibrant and dangerous. Every shot of the city feels alive. Smoke rising from food stalls, neon lights flickering above dark alleyways, voices echoing in the distance. The use of wide shots makes the world feel sprawling, but Bingbong always remains at the center of it, in control. The way the city is shot in the first half of the film reflects his dominance over it. The low angles, the movement of the camera that follows him like an unseen force, the way he commands attention just by walking down the street, all of it builds the idea that he is a man who owns this world. But as the story progresses, the cinematography shifts subtly. The city that once felt like a kingdom begins to feel like a trap. The camera starts to frame Bingbong from further away, making him look smaller, more isolated. The colors begin to shift, from the warmth of golden lights to the cold tones of gray and blue. The world that once seemed to move with him now seems to move against him. By the time the fire happens, the city has changed entirely. The warmth is gone. The streets feel colder. The shadows feel longer. Bingbong is no longer the king of his world. He is a man being hunted within it. The backrooms of power, where deals are made and loyalty is tested. So much of the film's tension is built in small, enclosed spaces, offices, restaurants, private rooms where men in suits speak in hushed tones. The backrooms where Bingbong conducts his business are filmed with an intimacy that makes the audience feel like they are intruding. The lighting is low and moody, creating an atmosphere of secrecy and quiet menace. The framing is tight, forcing characters to be uncomfortably close together, mirroring the reality of their relationships, built on necessity, not trust. The camera moves slowly, deliberately, as if waiting for someone to make the first move. These rooms are where power is exchanged, where betrayals are planned, where men decide who lives and who dies. And yet, for all their importance, they feel small, cramped, claustrophobic. Because no matter how much power Bingbong has, he is still trapped. Trapped by his past. Trapped by his choices. Trapped by the very world he created. The fire. A scene of pure visual storytelling. The fire that changes everything is one of the most visually striking moments in the film. Instead of treating it as just another event, the cinematography turns it into a nightmare unfolding in real time. The flames are not just orange and red, they are overwhelming, swallowing the screen in violent bursts of color. The sound design cuts between deafening roars and eerie moments of silence, making the destruction feel surreal. The camera moves erratically, as if caught in the chaos, unable to find stability. And then, the aftermath. Smoke hanging in the air. The remains of buildings glowing in the dim light. The faces of people who have lost everything, staring at Bingbong, some with anger, some with fear. This is the moment when the world turns against him. And the film makes sure the audience feels every second of it. The prison. A world without power. If the streets of Manila were Bingbong's kingdom, then prison is his tomb. Everything about the way the prison is filmed reinforces his fall. The walls are bare, lifeless, cold. The lighting is harsh, unflattering, exposing every detail of Bingbong's face, every wrinkle, every moment of exhaustion. The camera movements become still, restrained, mirroring the lack of control he now has over his world. In his cell, there is no power, no influence, no escape, only time. And for the first time, Bingbong is forced to sit with the weight of everything he has done. One of the most emotionally powerful shots in the film is when Bingbong sits on the edge of his bed, looking at the small window in his cell. The sunlight hits just one side of his face, while the other remains in shadow. A final visual reminder of what he has become, a man forever caught between light and darkness. The final moments. A question left unanswered. The final shot of the film does something unexpected. Instead of a dramatic ending, it gives the audience a single, haunting image. Bingbong, sitting alone in his cell. Asterisk the window above him casts a thin beam of light. Asterisk his face is calm, but unreadable. Asterisk and then, the smallest shift in his expression. It is not quite regret. Not quite relief. Just something. Something that leaves the audience wondering. Has he accepted his fate? Has he changed? Or is he simply waiting for the next game to begin? The camera lingers. And then, cut to black. How cinematic elements elevate the film. Everything in Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, from the way Manila is shot, to the way light and shadow define Bingbong's journey, to the way spaces shrink around him as his power fades, is designed to tell the story visually, not just through words. By the end, the audience has felt his rise and fall not just through the narrative, but through the very way the film was constructed. The settings are not just locations. They are reflections of Bingbong himself. And just like him, they change, they decay, they collapse. Because in the end, no matter how powerful a man is, the world always finds a way to move on without him. The making of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, was as dramatic, unpredictable, and intense as the film itself. From eerie coincidences to emotionally charged performances, from last-minute improvisations that changed entire scenes to unexpected challenges that nearly derailed production, the story behind the camera was just as compelling as the one being told on screen. Bringing the world of Vincent Crisologo to life meant more than just recreating the events of his life. It meant stepping into his world, into his mind, into the weight of the choices that shaped his fate. And for the cast and crew, that meant immersing themselves completely, sometimes more than they ever expected. The actor who became Bingbong. Too much. The actor chosen to play Vincent Bingbong Crisologo was no stranger to tough roles. He had played gangsters before, men of power, figures of authority, but nothing quite like this. From the very first day of filming, he knew this role would be different. Asterisk he spent months preparing, reading about Crisologo, watching footage of him, even visiting the places he once ruled. Asterisk he changed his body language, the way he walked, the way he carried himself, learning to embody a man who always had to be in control. Asterisk he immersed himself so deeply in the role that, at times, he felt like he wasn't acting at all. During one particularly intense scene, a moment where Bingbong realizes he has lost everything, the actor became so emotionally overwhelmed that he stayed in character long after the director called cut. "I couldn't shake it," he admitted in an interview. It wasn't just a scene anymore. It felt real. It felt like I had actually lost everything. It took the crew several minutes to calm him down, and even then, he admitted that he couldn't sleep that night. "Bingbong's life stayed with me," he later said, "even when I tried to leave it behind. The set that didn't want to be filmed." Some films have smooth productions, where everything goes as planned. This was not one of those films. One of the biggest challenges came when the crew tried to film in a particular location tied to one of the most dramatic moments in Bingbong's life. It was an old building, a place that had once held power, that had seen political deals, whispered betrayals, maybe even worse. The first day of filming at this location? Everything went wrong. Asterisk cameras refused to focus. No matter how much they adjusted the lenses, the shots came out blurred, distorted, wrong. Asterisk microphones picked up static and interference. At one point, they even recorded whispers that no one had spoken. Asterisk lights flickered, even though the wiring had been checked and rechecked. At first, the crew laughed it off. Maybe it was just bad luck. Then, one of the lights exploded. After that, several crew members refused to enter the building. "We tried to stay professional," one member of the production team recalled. "But deep down, we all felt it, like the past didn't want to be disturbed." The scene that almost ended in a real injury. One of the most physically demanding moments in the film was Bingbong's arrest. The scene had to feel raw, violent, chaotic, just as it must have felt in real life. Asterisk the actors playing the police officers trained with real law enforcement to ensure their movements were authentic. Asterisk the actors playing the police officers trained with real law enforcement to ensure their movements were authentic. Asterisk the fight choreography was rehearsed again and again to make sure it looked brutal but controlled. Asterisk the actor playing Bingbong insisted on doing most of his own stunts, including being thrown to the ground, dragged, and restrained. But one take went too far. During one shot, the force of the takedown was stronger than expected. Asterisk Bingbong's actor hit the pavement hard, too hard. Asterisk he gasped, dazed, and for a moment everyone thought he had actually been injured. Asterisk the crew rushed in, but the actor motioned for them to stay back. "Keep rolling," he said. He stayed in character, delivering his lines through gritted teeth, real pain flashing in his eyes. That was the take they used in the final film. The actor later admitted, "That moment was real. And I think that's why it worked." The final scene. A last-minute change that made history. Originally, the film was supposed to end with a definitive, closed ending. Bingbong alone in his prison cell, the camera pulling away, fading to black. But as they were about to film the final shot, the director hesitated. Something felt wrong. Instead of following the script, he told the actor, "Do whatever feels right." What happened next was completely unscripted. Asterisk the actor sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the small window. Asterisk he didn't move for almost a full minute. Asterisk then, just before the camera cut, his expression changed. It wasn't a smile. It wasn't regret. It was something in between. The director knew immediately. That was the ending. It left the audience wondering, was this the look of a man who had finally found peace? Or was it the look of someone who knew his story wasn't over? The cast and crew, a family built through fire. For all the struggles, the difficulties, the eerie moments, the exhaustion, there was one thing that kept the film alive, the bond between the cast and crew. Despite the intensity of the shoot, there were moments of laughter, of camaraderie, of shared meals and stories. Asterisk the actor playing Bingbong often stayed on set even when he wasn't filming, watching scenes play out, offering advice, immersing himself in the world. Asterisk the supporting actors became so deeply involved in their roles that they would stay in character even between takes. Asterisk the director fought for every scene, every detail, refusing to cut corners, determined to make the film as authentic as possible. And when it was over, no one walked away unchanged. The actor playing Bingbong later said, "I've done a lot of films. But this one stays with you." The legacy of the film. When Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story finally premiered, it wasn't just another crime drama. It was a piece of history, a reflection of power, consequence, and the ghosts of the past. And for those who made it, it was more than just a film. It was an experience they would never forget. Because some stories don't just live on screen. They live in the people who bring them to life. The story of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, is not just a tale of power, crime, and redemption. It is a deep, layered exploration of fate, morality, and the consequences of living a life built on control. Beneath its gripping narrative, the film weaves themes and symbolism that add depth to Bingbong's rise and fall, making every frame, every moment, every decision carry an undeniable weight. It is a story that asks a single, haunting question. Can a man outrun his own past? From the opening scene to the final lingering shot, the film answers this question in ways that are both tragic and inevitable. The inescapability of fate. One of the most powerful themes in the film is the idea that fate is not something that can be rewritten. Bingbong is a man who believes that he controls his destiny, that through power, loyalty, and fear, he can shape the world to his will. But the film constantly reminds us that his control is an illusion. Asterisk from the beginning, there is a sense of inevitability in the way his story unfolds. Every choice he makes brings him closer to the one thing he tries to avoid, his downfall. Asterisk the fire, the betrayals, the final moments in prison. None of these things happen suddenly. They are the result of years of choices, of paths taken long before Bingbong ever saw them coming. Asterisk the film visually reinforces this by showing Bingbong in mirrors, reflections that are slightly distorted, hinting at a future he cannot see but that is already set in motion. There is a tragic irony in his fate. He builds his world to protect himself. But in the end, it is that same world that destroys him. Power is both a shield and a curse. Power is at the center of Bingbong's life. It is his greatest weapon, his greatest defense, and ultimately, his greatest downfall. Throughout the film, power is portrayed not as something that elevates a person, but as something that isolates them. Asterisk at the height of his rule, Bingbong is shown always surrounded by people, but never truly with them. Asterisk in moments of confrontation, the camera frames him apart from others, even in crowded rooms, emphasizing his loneliness despite his dominance. Asterisk as he loses power, the spaces around him become physically smaller. Rooms feel tighter, shadows creep in, and the world that once bowed to him now towers over him. There is one particular moment where this theme is visually striking. The fire. When the fire spreads through the city, it is not just an act of destruction. It is a symbol of his control slipping away. Asterisk the flames consume everything, much like his power has consumed him. Asterisk the scene is chaotic, violent, but he cannot stop it. Asterisk as he watches the city burn, the lighting casts him in shadow, making him look almost like a ghost of himself, a man who is losing his grip on everything. The fire is not just the destruction of buildings. It is the destruction of his empire. Loyalty, a fragile foundation. Bingbong believes in loyalty. But the film makes it painfully clear that loyalty built on fear is never real. Asterisk his men follow him because they must, not because they truly want to. Asterisk his allies stand beside him only as long as it benefits them. Asterisk even those closest to him hesitate in his final days, weighing whether his fall is inevitable. This is symbolized throughout the film by the use of space and positioning in key scenes. Asterisk in the early part of the film, his men are positioned close to him, reflecting their willingness to follow his lead. Asterisk as the betrayals begin, the distance between him and others grows, literally and metaphorically. Asterisk the final betrayal is the most painful because it is not done with violence, but with silence. The person who betrays him simply steps away, refusing to stand by him anymore. This moment is framed in a way that makes it clear. Loyalty is not something you command. It is something you earn. And Bingbong, despite all his power, never truly earned it. Prison, the final symbol of his life. Prison is not just a place in this film. It is a representation of Bingbong's entire existence. 4 years, he lived inside a prison of his own making. A prison of power, of control, of the choices he made to survive. But it is only when he is physically locked in a cell that he truly realizes this. Asterisk the prison is cold, lifeless, stripped of everything that once made him powerful. Asterisk the walls are bare, the light is harsh, the silence is deafening. Asterisk there is nowhere to hide, no one to command, no power left to hold on to. And yet, there is a strange freedom in this. Because for the first time in his life, he is not fighting to hold on to something. He is simply left with himself. The final shot, what it really means. The last moments of the film do not give a clear resolution. Instead, they leave the audience with a single, haunting image. Bingbong sits in his cell. Asterisk the light from the small window casts only part of his face in brightness, the other half in shadow. Asterisk his posture is relaxed, but his expression is unreadable. Asterisk and then, just before the camera fades to black, there is a slight shift in his face. What does it mean? Is he finally at peace? Or is he simply waiting for the next move, the next game, the next opportunity to rise again? The brilliance of this moment is that it does not give the audience an answer. Because the truth is, Bingbong himself doesn't know. And that is the real tragedy of his story. Themes that stay long after the film ends. The brilliance of Bingbong, The Vincent Crisologo story is that it never preaches, never forces its audience to pick a side. Instead, it presents the facts, the choices, the consequences, and lets the viewer decide what they mean. Is Bingbong a villain? A victim? A man who never had a choice? Or is he simply a reflection of a world where power always comes at a cost? That is the power of themes and symbolism in this film. Because long after the credits roll, the questions remain. And maybe some answers are never meant to be found. The world of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, wasn't just built through its script or its performances. It was shaped, piece by piece, by the artistry of filmmaking. Every decision made by the director, cinematographer, editor, and sound designer worked toward one goal: to immerse the audience in the life of Bingbong, to make them feel the weight of his rise and fall, to pull them into his world and not let go until the final frame. The film doesn't just tell a story. It makes the audience experience it. Through masterful use of camera work, lighting, editing, and sound, the filmmakers crafted an atmosphere that felt both real and suffocating, tense and deeply emotional. Every shot, every cut, every silence was intentional, designed to reflect the mind of the man at the center of the storm. And when the film finally reached audiences, it left a mark, both critically and at the box office. Cinematography. Creating a world of power and paranoia. The way a camera moves in a film says everything about the world it is capturing. In Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, the cinematography doesn't just show the events, it makes you feel them. The power of framing. How the camera shows Bingbong's control. At the height of Bingbong's power, the camera frames him like a king. He is often shot from low angles, making him look larger than life. When he walks through a room, the camera follows from behind or moves alongside him, reinforcing his control over the world. In meetings, he is placed at the center of the frame, while everyone else is positioned around him, visually reinforcing that he is the one in charge. But as his power starts to crumble, so does the way he is framed. The low angles disappear. The camera starts looking down at him instead. The steady, controlled movements are replaced by shaky, handheld shots, reflecting his growing paranoia. Instead of being the center of attention, he starts being pushed to the edges of the frame, as if the world is closing in on him. By the time he is arrested, the cinematography has completely changed. He is filmed from a distance, making him look smaller, more isolated. The lighting is harsh, unflattering, a stark contrast to the golden glow of his early days. His movements feel slower, heavier, as if the weight of his choices is finally pressing down on him. This transformation in visual storytelling makes his downfall not just something we see, but something we feel. The final shot, a masterpiece in visual storytelling. The film's final image is one of its most powerful. Bingbong, sitting alone in his prison cell. The lighting divides his face into half light, half shadow, symbolizing his existence between power and consequence. The camera doesn't move, it simply holds, forcing the audience to take in every emotion on his face. And then, just before the fade to black, the smallest, almost imperceptible shift in his expression. It is a moment of pure, cinematic brilliance. Because the audience is left questioning what that final look means. Is it regret? Acceptance? Or is he still planning, still waiting for his next move? Editing. Tight, relentless, and full of meaning. Editing is the heartbeat of a film. It controls the rhythm, the tension, the emotions. In Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, the editing plays a critical role in shaping the audience's experience. The use of quick cuts in moments of chaos. One of the most powerful uses of editing comes in the fire scene, the moment that changes everything. Instead of showing the destruction in long, dramatic takes, the editor cuts rapidly between images. Flames consuming buildings. People screaming, running. Bingbong watching, motionless, his face unreadable. The aftermath, Long, silent shots of smoke rising, of ash falling, of everything that was once his turning to dust. This technique creates a feeling of chaos, of helplessness, of something spiraling out of control. And it makes the moment hit so much harder, slowing time in moments of realization. There are also moments where the editing slows down, where time stretches. One of the most haunting examples is the final betrayal. The scene plays in slow motion, dragging out every second. Bingbong's breath slows. His fingers twitch. His eyes widen just slightly. The sound fades into a deep, hollow silence. The audience knows what's coming, but the editing makes them feel it before it happens. And that anticipation? It's devastating. Sound design, the unspoken language of the film. Sometimes, the most powerful moments in a film aren't about what is said, but about what is heard. The sound design in Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, is a masterpiece of subtle, emotional storytelling. The absence of music in crucial moments. One of the boldest choices made by the filmmakers was when to use silence. During Bingbong's arrest, there is no dramatic score. No background music to tell the audience what to feel. Just the sound of footsteps, of handcuffs clicking, of distant voices. The absence of music makes the scene feel more raw, more real, like something we are witnessing instead of just watching. The use of sound to show Bingbong's paranoia. As his world starts to crumble, the sound design subtly changes. The background noise feels louder, more intrusive. The echoes of footsteps linger a little longer. When he is alone, there is an eerie, almost unnatural silence, as if the world itself is waiting for him to fall. As his world starts to crumble, the sound design subtly changes. The background noise feels louder, more intrusive. The echoes of footsteps linger a little longer. When he is alone, there is an eerie, almost unnatural silence, as if the world itself is waiting for him to fall. By the time he reaches prison, there is nothing left. No sound. No voices. Just the quiet hum of a world that has moved on without him. Box office success and reception. When Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, hit theaters, it became an instant conversation piece. Audiences were divided. Some saw it as a tragic masterpiece, an unflinching look at the rise and fall of a man trapped by his own ambition. Others saw it as too sympathetic, too focused on humanizing a man whose crimes defined his legacy. But no matter where people stood, one thing was undeniable. The film made an impact. It became a box office success, drawing massive audiences across the Philippines. It sparked debates, discussions, and even political commentary. It proved that a film doesn't have to take a side to be powerful. It just has to tell the story honestly. And years later, it remains one of the most unforgettable crime dramas ever made. A masterpiece in visual storytelling. Through its cinematography, editing, sound, and fearless storytelling, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, transcends its genre. It is not just about one man's life. It is about power and its price, control and its limits, choices and their consequences. And through the art of filmmaking, it becomes something far greater than just a movie. It becomes an experience, one that lingers long after the screen fades to black. The soul of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, is carried by its cast. Their performances are not just portrayals, they are transformations, bringing to life a story of power, consequence, and redemption with an intensity that lingers long after the credits roll. Each actor did more than just play a role. They stepped into the shoes of real people, embodying their struggles, their victories, and their darkest moments. From the moment the film was announced, the casting process was met with intense scrutiny. Finding the right actors to bring these historical figures to life wasn't just a creative challenge, it was a responsibility. The audience didn't want to see actors pretending to be these figures. They wanted to feel as if they were watching history unfold before them. And when the film finally premiered, it was the performances that left the deepest impression. The man who became Bingbong. The role of Vincent Bingbong Crisologo was one of the most demanding performances ever attempted in Philippine cinema. The actor who took on the role was known for his commanding screen presence, but even he admitted that this character was unlike anything he had played before. In interviews, he described the immense pressure of portraying a real-life figure whose story was still fresh in the minds of many. It wasn't just about getting his mannerisms right, he said. It was about understanding the man, why he did, what he felt in those moments of power and those moments of loss. To prepare for the role. He spent weeks researching, watching interviews with Bingbong, studying old footage, and even visiting the real places where events unfolded. He met with people who had known Crisologo personally, asking them about his habits, his way of speaking, the look in his eyes when he was angry or when he was silent. He underwent intensive physical training, transforming his body to reflect the strength and presence of a man who commanded both fear and respect. But what surprised him the most wasn't the physical transformation, it was the psychological toll of the role. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, he admitted. Certain scenes would stay with me, even after filming ended. It felt like I was carrying something with me that I couldn't shake. The hardest moment for him came during the prison scenes. 4 hours, he sat alone in a real, abandoned cell. No crew. No cameras. Just silence. I wanted to feel what he must have felt, he explained. The weight of everything crashing down. The realization that power was gone. That the world outside would move on without him. When the time came to film the final shot, he didn't have to act. That haunted, unreadable expression on his face? That was real. The master villain. A rival with his own story. A film like this needed more than just a strong lead. It needed an equally strong rival, a character who wasn't just an obstacle, but a force of nature, a reflection of what Bingbong could have been if his life had taken a different turn. The actor who played Bingbong's greatest enemy understood this role perfectly. Instead of playing the villain as a simple antagonist, he chose to make him charismatic, intelligent, and just as ruthless as Bingbong himself. The best rivals, he said in an interview, are the ones who aren't just there to oppose the hero. They're the ones who could have been the hero if things had gone a little differently. His performance was cold, calculating, yet strangely magnetic. Audiences found themselves hating him and admiring him at the same time. And that, in the end, was what made him so terrifying. Because he wasn't just an enemy. He was a mirror. The final betrayal, the performance that shocked everyone. Perhaps the most devastating moment in the film is the final betrayal. The actor playing the character who ultimately turns against Bingbong delivered a performance so raw, so heart-wrenching, that even the crew was shaken. During the betrayal scene, his voice broke in the middle of a line. It wasn't scripted. But instead of cutting, the director let the moment play out. The hesitation. The pain. The realization that this betrayal was necessary, but it would haunt him forever. When the scene ended, there was a long silence on set. Then, applause. Because everyone knew that was real. The audience reaction. A film that sparked debate. When Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story premiered, the reaction was immediate. People weren't just watching the film, they were arguing about it, discussing it, dissecting every moment. Some saw it as a masterpiece of crime storytelling, a film that dared to show the human side of a man most had only seen as a legend. Others felt it was too sympathetic, too willing to paint Bingbong as a tragic figure instead of a man who had made unforgivable choices. But one thing was undeniable. No one walked away from this film unaffected. In online forums and post-screening discussions, viewers debated. Was Bingbong a victim of his circumstances, or the architect of his own downfall? Did the film show redemption, or was it simply the illusion of redemption? What does power truly mean if it can disappear overnight? Even those who disagreed about the film's message couldn't deny the strength of its storytelling, its performances, and its emotional impact. The legacy of the film. A story that refused to fade. Years after its release, Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story remains one of the most talked-about crime dramas in Philippine cinema. It won awards for Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Cinematography, cementing its place as a cinematic achievement. It became required viewing for students of Philippine history and political science, sparking discussions about crime, power, and morality. It inspired future filmmakers to tell grittier, more nuanced stories, films that didn't just entertain, but challenged audiences to think. And for the actors who lived inside these roles, it was an experience they would never forget. The lead actor later reflected, "I have played many characters. But Bingbong? He stays with you. He changes the way you see the world." Maybe that's why the film still resonates today. Because it wasn't just a story about one man. It was a story about power and its price, choices and their weight, the past and how it never truly lets go. And as long as stories like this are told, Bingbong's name will never be forgotten. The story of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, is not just another tale of crime and consequence. It is a visceral, unrelenting journey into the mind of a man who lived and ruled by power, only to watch it slip through his fingers. From the first frame to the last, the film immerses its audience in a world where loyalty is fragile, control is temporary, and redemption is never guaranteed. We have explored every layer of this gripping film, from its masterful cinematography to its hauntingly real performances, from its deep themes of power and betrayal to the eerie behind-the-scenes moments that made its creation just as intense as the story it told. The filmmaking techniques used in the movie ensured that we didn't just watch Bingbong's rise and fall, we felt it. The camera work, the editing, the sound design, and the setting all work together to create an experience that lingers, an atmosphere that swallows you whole and refuses to let go. At the core of it all is the unforgettable performance of the lead actor, who did more than just portray Bingbong. He became him. Every gesture, every silence, every moment of control and loss was captured in a way that blurred the line between performance and reality. And it wasn't just him. The entire cast brought depth and complexity to their roles, ensuring that even the antagonists felt real, not just characters, but people shaped by ambition, fear, and the inescapable force of history. We also delved into the strangest facts about the making of the film, unexplainable technical failures, eerie moments on set, and the way certain scenes carried an energy that even the crew couldn't shake. Whether these were mere coincidences or something more, they added to the mystique of the production, making the film feel almost as if it was a force of history itself, something that demanded to be told. The themes of the film are what elevate it beyond a typical crime drama. It is a story about the illusion of power, the weight of past mistakes, and the price one pays for the choices they make. It asks questions that have no easy answers. Was Bingbong truly evil, or was he simply a product of the world that shaped him? Did he deserve redemption, or was his fate sealed long before he ever had a choice? And then, of course, there is the ending, one of the most haunting final shots in modern cinema. Bingbong, sitting in his cell, the light barely touching his face, his expression unreadable. Is it regret? Is it defiance? Or is it something in between? The film leaves it open, because some stories do not have clean endings. The reception of Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo Story, was as complex as the film itself. It divided audiences. Some saw it as a masterpiece of human drama, a raw look at a flawed man's life. Others believed it was too sympathetic, too willing to humanize a figure who lived in the grayest areas of morality. But love it or hate it, one thing was undeniable. It was unforgettable. Even years after its release, the film remains a landmark in Philippine cinema. It is still studied, discussed, analyzed. It is still a point of debate, a story that refuses to fade. Because at its heart, it is not just about one man. It is about the nature of power, the way it can lift someone to greatness and then destroy them just as quickly. And maybe that's why Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story still resonates. Because power, in the end, is always temporary. But the consequences, they last forever. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Bingbong, the Vincent Crisologo story, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth movie analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and explorations of films that leave a lasting impact. This is just the beginning. Because as long as there are stories to tell, we'll be here to uncover them. We see his first taste of influence, the moment he realized that fear was a more effective tool than kindness. We see the way he justified his actions, how he convinced himself that everything he did was for a greater purpose. But the past never stays buried. A witness emerges, someone who claims to have seen what really happened on the night of the fire. And just like that, the empire Bingbong built begins to tremble. The police close in. The betrayals begin. And for the first time, Bingbong realizes that he may not be untouchable after all. The weight of suspicion hangs heavy in the air. Bingbong Crisologo, once untouchable, now finds himself at the center of a storm that threatens to destroy everything he built. The city whispers his name, not in reverence, but in fear and accusation. He walks the streets as he always has, head held high, shoulders squared, his presence still commanding respect, but there is something different now. The glances are colder, the voices quieter, the loyalty of his men no longer as unwavering as before. The investigation into the devastating fire has escalated. The evidence is mounting, the police are closing in, and the once loyal allies who stood beside him now weigh their own survival against their loyalty. One by one, people begin to disappear. Some flee, some go silent, and some, he knows, are waiting for the right moment to turn against him. Bingbong is a man who has always been 2 steps ahead of his enemies, but this time, the enemy is closing in from all sides. He meets with his closest confidants in the back room of a dimly lit establishment, a place that once felt like a fortress but now feels like a trap. The conversation is tense. There is no laughter, no bravado, just quiet, measured words, the kind spoken by men who know their time is running out. One of them, a man who has been with him for years, dares to suggest something unthinkable, leaving, disappearing before the law can close its grip around him. It is the first time someone has said it aloud, the first time the thought is given life. But Bingbong is not the kind of man who runs. The decision is made, he will fight. Yet, even as he prepares to stand his ground, he knows that something is wrong. The streets are too quiet, the air too still. He feels it in his gut, a betrayal is coming. And then, it happens. The police move in. It happens fast. Too fast. There is no warning, no chance to slip away. Doors are kicked down, men are thrown to the ground, weapons are drawn with precision. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to take him. For the first time in his life, Bingbong is powerless. The interrogation room is cold, sterile, a far cry from the world he once ruled. Across from him sits a man with calculating eyes, the lead investigator who has been after him for years. "It's over, Bingbong," he says, his voice calm, steady. Bingbong leans back, a small smirk playing at the corner of his lips. He has heard those words before. And yet, this time, something feels different. This time, there is no escape. The trial begins, and the courtroom becomes a battlefield. The evidence is damning, the witnesses more than willing to speak. One by one, they take the stand. Former allies, rivals, men who once feared him but now see an opportunity to be free of his shadow. The prosecution paints him as a criminal, a man with blood on his hands, a leader who built his power on fear and violence. But Bingbong? He does not flinch. He listens, he watches, he waits. There is one final witness, a person he never expected to betray him. Someone close, someone he trusted. When they speak, the weight of their words lands like a final blow. And then, the verdict. The gavel strikes. Guilty. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Some nod in approval, others shake their heads in disbelief. But Bingbong? He just exhales. Is it relief? Acceptance? Or something else entirely? The prison cell is nothing like the rooms he once commanded. The walls are too close, the silence too loud. Here, he is no longer Bingbong Crisologo, the feared and powerful. He is just another man waiting out his fate. But the story does not end there. Because behind those bars, something changes. The fire that once burned inside him, the hunger for power, the thirst for control, it begins to fade. And in its place, something unexpected begins to grow. Reflection, regret, and perhaps the faintest glimmer of redemption. Bingbong has spent his life fighting, but now, for the first time, he is forced to look inward. And maybe, just maybe, that is the battle he was always meant to fight. The heart of Bingbong. The Vincent Crisologo story is not just in its events, its betrayals, or its violence. It is in its characters, the people who shaped Bingbong's life and the way their choices defined his path. These are not just figures moving through a crime drama. They are forces of fate, pulling him toward destruction or redemption, testing the limits of loyalty, power, and the cost of living in a world where one wrong move means the end. At the center of it all is Vincent Bingbong Crisologo himself, a man both feared and revered, someone whose very name commanded both respect and dread in equal measure. From the moment he is introduced, he is not simply a villain, nor is he a hero. He is something in between, something far more dangerous and far more compelling. Bingbong is the embodiment of raw power, of a man who understands that control is not given but taken. He does not ask for respect, he demands it. And yet, beneath the exterior of a man who appears untouchable, there is something deeper, something almost tragic. The world he was raised in taught him that power is survival, and so he became the very thing he feared, an unstoppable force, a leader whose strength was built on the weaknesses of others. But Bingbong's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. He believes in absolute loyalty. He believes that his people, his allies, will always stand beside him because of everything he has done for them. He has given them power, security, a place in a world that would otherwise leave them behind. And yet, he is blind to one truth: loyalty built on fear is never truly loyalty at all. This is what makes his downfall so painful to watch. The betrayals come from the very people he trusted the most, and each one is a blow not just to his empire, but to his very sense of self. There is a moment, just before the final betrayal, where Bingbong stands alone, looking over the city he once controlled. His expression is unreadable, but the weight in his eyes says everything. For the first time, he is beginning to understand that power is fleeting, that no empire lasts forever. And yet, he does not run. Because Bingbong is not the kind of man who runs. Then, there is the rival, the man who serves as the counterbalance to Bingbong's rule. This character is not just an antagonist. He is the reflection of what Bingbong might have been if he had made different choices. He is just as ruthless, just as intelligent, just as powerful. But where Bingbong rules with dominance, his rival plays the long game. It is a war not of strength, but of patience. And in the end, it is patience that wins. Then, there is the loyal confidant, the right-hand man who has been with Bingbong from the beginning. Their relationship is built on years of trust, on battles fought together, on victories and losses that only they understand. But as the walls start closing in, even he begins to waver.